Yeah, no, we're going to do a post-auction review on a Louisiana tax sale auction that just finished up.
Yeah. In fact, Louisiana's a little bit different. So Louisiana is classified as a redemption deed state, but they also offer tax deed properties, and that's actually what we're going to be looking at tonight. Is there's a number of different tax deed properties that'll be sold each month through Civic Source. But when we're talking about regular Louisiana tax sales, the ones that are going to happen 90% of the time, in the past, they've utilized what's called a bid down ownership method. In fact, we've just heard that they've changed that, and they're starting to bid down the interest rate. And we can understand why, because when you're bidding down the ownership, suddenly you're making it difficult for the investor and the owner. Let's say they bid down the ownership to 50% on a property. Well, now you've got two people trying to battle for the same property, and it just created more lawsuits. So now what we've heard is they're changing over to a bid down the interest rate, which we think is going to be better for everyone.
Yeah. Now, Louisiana, they do sell. They're officially a redemption deed state with a 3-year redemption period on the properties that they sell in their normal auctions. But like Steve was saying, sometimes they have properties that they're selling outside of that as well, like some of the other states do. But bidding down the ownership is a real challenge. If you're forced to bid in a system like that, bidding down the percentage is a much better, system there for picking properties out. So that is good to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just going to be like almost like a tax lien certificate, where you're going to start at 12%, 11.75, 11.50. Now, these unsold properties that don't sell at the normal tax sale, they're going to be eventually transferred to the parish. And after that redemption period has passed, that 3-year redemption period, then they're sending these properties over to Civic Source, and Civic Source is going through really a whole foreclosure process, which we'll look into here in a second.
Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over right now and go hop online to review some of these.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and look at the auction. So here's the auction on Civic Source. And if we were to look over here underneath the investment, that's where they would have any type of redemption deed properties. You see how they're starting at 100%, where supposedly they're going to be changing that now. In fact, this is from the sale from last year. But here's what we're looking at. These are underneath their property type, and these are essentially tax deed properties. So we're going to click on this first one here.
What's kind of interesting about it is when you do see it like that, they sell for the minimum amount, and so you're not really bidding anything up. You're just bidding down that ownership percentage of the property that the lien represents, or I guess the percentage of property that you own in this case, which does make it just so much more complicated. But that's kind of what we're looking at there in the cases where we can see, the 100% is there's still 100% ownership there on these properties here, and when they switch over to a percentage-based system there for bidding down the ownership, it'll look a little bit different than this.
Yeah, in fact, our strategy with this type of auction was only just to acquire property for 100%. And you could still do that. There was still property, but if it was a really hot property, then sometimes people would get crazy with bidding down the ownership. In fact, me and Shade saw this in our very first auction that we attended, because Utah was still doing a bid down the ownership on expensive property and premium bid on land and stuff. And so, in that case, we saw people bidding down the ownership, and it was just completely ridiculous. We knew that even though we were brand new to tax sale investing, that didn't make any sense to us.
Yeah, there just wasn't a good way to get your money out of a deal like that. If you're forced to kind of be a partner with the owner that is just defaulted on the property, it just doesn't work very well. And so, yeah, this does work a lot better. There's good opportunities for properties like this.
Yeah, so any of those properties that don't get sold eventually are going to be sold through the parish here. And we can see, like Shade said, there's only one bid on it. Now, as we get into it, what the actual opening bid amount isn't any type of back taxes. They've erased all of the back taxes. What it is it's all of this stuff here. And you can see that they do a 30-year title. They do, title examination. But one thing that they also do is you can see title insurance here.
And title insurance endorsements too.
Yeah. Closing documents, title insurance policy, title insurance endorsement. So when you're buying this property, it's as close to a warranty deed, as you can get. You can see an example here of the title insurance policy, and they're going to issue you a title insurance policy on it. So it's a lot. It's different than your normal type of tax deed property. So this opening bid isn't any back taxes. It's just what they paid. So all of them kind of start around this price point, depending on how many people they need to notify.
And essentially, it's like the foreclosure cost and the auction cost all kind of, and the legal cost for it all bound up into one.
Yeah, exactly. So, here's, we can see where the property is located. And one thing that's interesting is when I was looking into the history of this one, it was owned by the city for a while. I don't know if it was deeded over to the city or if the city lost it or if the county gave it to the city. But, you can see at this photo, it's been cleared, because if we look at it here online, you can see that it's located right here. And it's actually all, because there's that tree that you can see right there. And so they cleared it out since then.
I do like states where they put up signs in front of the properties, to take pictures, because you always know that those images are current images. A lot of times they go out there to take them right before the sale, and so it's always nice to get those, just because it's so much more current sometimes than the stuff we're looking at online.
Yeah, well, and you can see, this blue house right here. Here's kind of looking at the back end of it right there is kind of what you're seeing.
Yeah,
and
you
that,
kind of
that
figure out
fence
the angle
as well. Yeah, the fence as well back here. So it's a good cleared lot. You're essentially going to get a warranty deed. The question is, what is its valued? And I was actually surprised by some of the sold value within the area. So, here's one sold for $31,000. This one's actually just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, that's not a very big lot. That's a 6,000 square feet. Is like 0.15 acre, I think.
Yeah, this one's a little bit bigger, but it's also a little further out. Ended up selling for $27,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for a small lot. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then here's one for sale right here. Here's one of the cheapest ones I could find for sale. And it's 5,600 feet, 5,600 square feet, and they're selling it for 40 grand. So
that's a really good basement area to be at if your cheapest properties are like that kind of price point. That's a good amount.
yeah, and in looking at some of the sold, there was some different type of lots, like a 3,600 square foot lot that sold for $7 grand. I mean, there was some a little bit cheaper properties, but that's kind of where the average price on this, and the fact that it's already cleared and ready to go. This could be a property, and one thing we'd check too is the zoning to figure out what we could put on it. But in looking at some of the properties in the area, I don't think you have to be that big of a property to build on there. Maybe you do, but check the zoning. But
that is pretty interesting, just because at the $5,000 to $6,000 range that they open up at, I would almost think that that's probably going to be too high of a bid for a lot of these lots, but it's really not that high of a bid at all. If you have lots that are valued at $35,000 to $40,000, then it's it's actually it's about 15 or 20% of value at most, and so it ends up being a pretty profitable deal.
Well, and let's say that they turn around and sell it for 15 grand. They just sell it quickly. They've got the ability to sell it with title insurance. So if somebody wants to buy it to put, at least from as much as I understand by going through and reviewing the rules, that at that point you've got title insurance on it. You can sell it with title insurance on it. Somebody could get a loan against it to build a house or to put a property on it. And so, in that case, I think that there's going to be good profitability there, especially knowing that, you don't have to spend another $3 grand going through quiet title. So in a way, or $2 grand, let's say, you can see. So in a way, it's like they picked it up for 3 or 4 grand.
Yeah, that's such a huge benefit, being able to just buy the property with title insurance, not needing to take it through a quiet title action. You can just sell it as is because they issue title insurance when you purchased it. Yeah, that is that will save you so much. That's actually that's a way bigger bonus than then I think, you know, you might even realize here initially, just because the issues with the title on a property with tax sales, it's probably, you know, one of the biggest downsides. And so if they're able to provide title insurance on these deals, they basically eliminate that aspect of it, and these properties become a lot easier to sell and a more attractive investment.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, this one right here, I didn't get any comps on. I wasn't going to show it, but we were talking earlier and looking at that property. I guess that was in the webinar that looked to be, you know, have a pond located on it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what this is.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
that one is a pond as well.
yeah, you know, is it worth $6,000? Well, it might be to one of these property owners, but you know, I don't know if you could put, maybe you could put a trailer on there in front of it,
Yeah,
but
we'd probably keep looking unless we had a specific reason for it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if one of the, you know, if somebody that specifically wanted that is the one that bought it.
yeah, well, and you know, maybe somebody was taking a chance. You never know.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
true.
who knows what you could do with it? Maybe it has a use, you know, and maybe that water has some kind of value. I don't know enough about that to say or not, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it is interesting, and usually the reason why we look past those types of properties is because obviously we're looking for you know, for usability, for buildability, and with a lot like that, you're just not going to have it. In fact, you're not going to have a whole lot of dry land on that lot at all, because the majority of it, you know, just ends up being water. And so, yeah, unless there was a specific reason we had to believe, you know, otherwise. This one looks like this was probably a demolition at some point.
Yeah, you know, I think it probably was as well. You know, you can at least see some type of driveway there. But the good thing is we don't have to worry about government liens. You
Yeah,
know, these are being sold through the parishes, and so they're essentially, it's a little bit like Mississippi when they go and Mississippi sells their state deeds, which essentially are liens that didn't get purchased and the state forecloses on them. They offer up what's called the land patent, which is a higher form than a tax deed. You know, here they're offering again title insurance on this property. You know, we've got a couple of photos of it down here, and you can see you got the old motorhome there. Now, with the motorhome like that, would have to look and see who the past owner is and send them a notification. And then if they don't move it, you know, we would probably, you know, have a tow truck or maybe sell it to someone, you know, if we could get 500 bucks out of it or something, and have it moved off the property.
it's funny they call it a constructive image sign, I think they said. At the
Yeah,
top. Yeah. Oh, constructive notice signs.
yeah.
That is what that is. Uh, yeah, that is kind of interesting. I noticed on the other paper there, they're being sold by Boaz. Yeah, yeah, Boaz Tax Sale Properties LLC. I wonder if that's the entity that county
Is
set
that
up to sell them.
is that what every one of them says, or
I don't know. I noticed on this one,
'cause I
maybe it's
don't think?
different on each one.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
company.
okay. All right. I was thinking it was the same on all of them. Never mind.
Yeah, so this was some kind of tax sale company that bought it,
Yeah,
and what they
yeah. They're,
what
they're the ones that probably bought the liens, or are these the legal owners?
uh they're probably the, I don't know, I would imagine that they probably bought it at a tax sale,
Yeah,
and then they went and after the redemption period they ended up acquiring the property because, you know, it passed the end of the redemption period and it was in total junk shape. So they just walked away from it. The city probably did a foreclosure on it, and after not paying the property taxes, it's going into the tax sale. I'll almost guarantee that's the story of what happened here.
yeah. That would make sense. That's pretty interesting.
But again, we're going to get, you
Holy
know,
cow! Look how many interested parties there are.
yeah, yeah, a lot of people. Well, it was probably a company,
Yeah,
and so these were all probably owners within this company, you know, some type of LLC where they, and some of them are going to be like the city of Alexandria, that's probably letting them know about the liens. But some of these different names, you can see all of these different names, family names and things. So this was some kind of company, for whatever reason, they decided to go ahead and, you know, let it go to the tax sale.
oh,
But
that makes it even nicer. You don't have to go through quiet title on it.
Cajun Cooking Hut.
Yeah, that's right. That was a food truck.
you get the Cajun cooking hut along with it. You know, and maybe they bought it before then, and maybe the house wasn't there before, but there's definitely probably a house, but it's not a, you know, it's not a bad little neighborhood. You know, it's a good sized lot. In fact, we can look at some of the county records. We like to do that.
The value's definitely pretty solid.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the map that they have there is not bad, but I always like to look at the county map if I can. It's going to give you a better idea. Plus, so many of them have different features now that can help us make a good decision on it.
Oh yeah, I like it when you can see the owner name, you know, as one
Yeah.
of the layers. That's always handy.
Yeah, exactly. It's 0.21 acres. So it's most likely a buildable lot. We would, of course, check with the city. You know, I'm going to bet that it is, but we're
Was
never
that
going
is
to.
that its current valuation at 77,000? Oh, I
No,
think it was on
but
Redfin or something that you were looking at.
oh
Maybe.
no, this is just different lots that have sold
Oh,
within this area. So in looking at here, you know, I kind of looked for the properties that sold closest around here, you know, and looked up what some of the properties were selling for. So this is one of them that has sold. It ended up selling for 55,000. They valued it at 77,000, but again, I bet there was a home on it. You know, so this one is pretty similar to the property that we were looking at. You know, it's a little bit bigger, but pretty similar. So if this is really close to it, if it's sold for 55, it is a little bit bigger. You know, maybe this property could be worth 30. You know, I mean, even if you're 25 to 35, you know, this one here sold for 60,000, and this one was interesting because it was barely, you know, barely 3,700 square feet.
holy cow! Yeah, it's not even a tenth of an acre. That's tiny.
Yeah.
But the amounts are solid. I mean, $55,000, $60,000 amounts for the lots is significant, especially for properties that, you know, it looks like you've got a fair shot at being able to pick up for $6,000 to $7,000.
Yeah, this is one of the cheaper lots within the area. You know, it's a good sized lot. This one's smaller than the one that we're looking at, and it's also kind of a thinner lot, so you're going to have a different type of property on it. But these are kind of properties that have sold around here, and that are, you know, here's one that's currently for sale.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty good.
Yeah. The next one. I don't think it's this one. No, that's one I passed. I don't know why they bid on that. Even here, they're telling you, you know, that this is not part of the property. So I don't know why anyone bid on that one. That would be what we would call a bad deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a mess to get into. That looks interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
There might be, is there a stream in the back of that, I wonder? It almost looks like a low spot in the back going from the road.
Yeah, right there. I don't
Yeah,
think so. But we could look.
it may not be. It may be all fine.
I didn't see one on the other one.
Oh, it's another one of the benefits of looking at multiple years of overhead images is because sometimes they're taken at different times of the year where you've got less foliage. That one
Yeah.
doesn't help us too much though, does it? Although it does make it look like less like there's a river or something there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is about, you know, 0.75 acres. So,
I wonder if we have images of those cross streets. Street side there. Oh yeah, we do.
yeah, we can go back here and look at. We'll go to street view here in a second, but here's kind of what they've got. They just got, you know, kind of a regular photo of it. So you can't see a lot, but, and one kind of trick to show you guys is when you do something like this where we can click on to go to Google View, if we just try to click right here, it's not going to take us back to this location. And so what I'll do is I'll just copy that address up there in the left-hand corner and then type it in and kind of redo it, because then I can look from an overhead as well and not just, jump back out of it. So here we can kind of see, here's where that property starts at, over here somewhere, so we can look and see. I don't really see any water. I think it was just kind of the tree line. And then it goes down here, and there is, no, I'm on the wrong street.
Yeah, boy, this is a thick forest area.
Yeah, so it's pretty much from there all the way to the end of the street. So it's a big size lot. And here's where that house starts at. So you've got a pretty good sized lot. And so I'm looking at some of the comps here in the area. This one's quite a bit smaller. This one's about, well, not even a third of the size. But
yeah, it's not quite a quarter acre about.
Yeah, and this one's, close to like 0.8, an eighth of an acre. And so,
oh, that one we're looking at?
Yeah, this one here, yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that one's probably about a half acre, isn't it? Wouldn't you say? It's like
no, I think it's bigger than that, because this is the same size as this one, and I think it was like 0.75. I mean, we can look it up and look at the house and see, but it didn't have it down here in the county record, but I can see that these lots are the same size. So I checked this property, and it was like, 0.72 acres, 0.75, something like that.
oh yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, it could be 100 feet wide.
Yeah.
More.
So this one's kind of close by, ended up selling for 45. This one's a little closer to it, a little bigger than it, and it sold for 42. It's got a little bit cleared here, but it's kind of in that same kind of area, forest area.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good comparable for it.
Yeah, and here's another one. This one's a little further out, but ended up selling for 40. So, they picked it up for one bid at about $6,000. When we were talking with our membership tonight in the weekly membership, we were talking about setting our max bids and the different classifications depending on property type. So these are kind of in that stage 2, stage 3 class, where you can pick them up, you can turn around, you can make 20 to 30 grand on them, and the fact that you're getting it where you can offer it to somebody who can get a loan against it, or can get title insurance on it, build a home on it quickly. That makes it a lot easier for us to be able to find a buyer.
Yeah, it's interesting too that all the properties that we've looked at, all these lots have been valued at, $30,000 to $40,000 minimum, for that price point, which is again about 20% of value, 25% of value. The numbers work on these lots pretty well.
Yeah, they're really not too bad. It's on Cherry. I think it's this one. What happened there? Oh, there we go. Oh, no. Oh, this is the one. I don't know why they bought this. I think it's a decent size, but it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty big narrow strip.
Yeah, this thing didn't sell. This thing didn't get, and it's kind of a strip. The other one, you at least look like it may have road. You've got some water access there, but so those,
Yeah.
that's not one we would purchase, and obviously nobody bought that one. But we'll look at this last one, and then we'll go over and look at some other stuff.
Oh yeah, that one looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Same kind of thing as the other ones, and it's located right here. So it's kind of this area here. In fact, look at that.
Oh yeah, you've got that sign. I do love the signs they put out there. That is nice always to see. Did they put 2 of them up, or is it just double vision?
No, there's 2 of them there. One of them has something white over it. I don't know what the. But what's kind of interesting is they put that back their way in April 2025.
Yeah, it has been there for a while.
Yeah. So this one sold for that first bid. Yeah, we won't. We could look up the county record like we did before, but we'll kind of go ahead and go through it quick because I don't want to spend all the time doing it. This one, you know, I was trying to find property because it's a little bit outside of this town, Alexandria, and so, you know, some of these might be a little high. I don't think it might be quite valued this, but this one here was 1.8 an acre of a lot, so it's bigger. This one I think is 1.1 acres, or just about an acre or so. So this one sold
Yeah,
for 75.
that's a good comp. I mean, even better than the ones that we've been looking at before there, and the price point's about the same, isn't it?
Yeah, it sold for the opening bid amount. You know, here's one that is a little bit bigger as well, sold for 41. So there is some kind of discrepancy depending on, you know, how big it is.
Yeah, 41 to 88 though is a good range to be in.
Yeah, there's 40, 60, 80. So, I mean, either way, I think that they're going to be able to make money on it. You know, I mean, but could you turn around and flip this property for 25 grand? Probably, you know, pretty quickly. Yeah, you probably could. And, you know, you make 16, 17 grand off of it. You know, that's not a bad little deal. And if you do 5 or 6 of those type of deals, even in Louisiana a year, that could be some decent income coming in, at least doing this type of a strategy. But we have seen homes on here. We've seen commercial property. Some of them will bid up a lot higher than the opening bid amount. But these are the type of tax deeds that are available in Louisiana, where most people just think of redemption deeds.
Yeah, well, and every single one of these would work out really well for building up your working capital. You know, you can go from investing about $7,000 into it, you know, to be able to pull out 25,000 plus on each one of those transactions. I think, you know, those are pretty